Governor Ben Ayade of Cross River State yesterday defected to the All Progressives Congress from the People's Democratic Party. Right now, we're being joined from Calabar, the state capital, by the governor himself, Professor Ben Ayade, to talk about his reasons for defecting, his immediate and medium-term plans, and his honest assessment of how well his geopolitical zone, the Niger Delta, has fared because of the brand of politics that is being played by its political leaders, among other questions. Welcome to the program, Governor Ben Ayade. It's good to have you on the morning show.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Professor Ayade. Well, very quickly, about 2 days ago or so, the spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party, Kola Ologbondiyan, publicly dismissed those who were saying that APC governors were wooing you to leave the PDP and join the APC. He said that you are a very loyal member of the party and that you have no issues with the leadership of the party at the center. And then within 24 hours, we just got to know that you have defected. What exactly happened? And, well, what are the reasons? Some of the reasons are out there in the public domain. And specifically, what is in it for you? What is the APC promising you?
Well, in the first instance, Kola was completely right, and I have no issues with the leadership of the People's Democratic Party. He was also a loyal member of the party. My sudden somersault, as it were, to have left a day after to APC was also informed by a nationalistic principle. The nation has come under very severe attack, almost occasioned by increased levels of politics associated with the approach of 2023. The attacks, even though may be generated by unemployment, a sense of frustration, but also there's a clear indication that there may be some forces also behind all of this. At this point of our nationhood, it is the responsibility of all the political class to join hands with Mr. President to drive this nation through these trying moments. It is against that principle that I have decided to join APC, to bring value to this country, to bring dignity to the black man, and to prove to the international community that indeed Nigeria can midwife her transition process without the crisis that they envisage.
Well, Professor Ayade, I mean, I asked you what is in it for you, and you've been quoted as saying you want to help President Buhari. Well, does he really still need anybody's help? His tenure will end by 2023, and he will not. I mean, he will be retiring, as it were, you know, from that office.
You'll be shocked that between now and 2022, 2 years is a whole lot. A whole lot can happen. Nobody would have told me that NSAS of a product of just 1 week could almost have burnt down this country. And so for me, 2 years is an opportunity for us to do an agenda resetting. It is an opportunity to create a new development platform that can help change the narrative. Strong impression out there that the black man can rule himself, that we are driven by greed and only stress, that the black man only prefers to sit around the fireplace and dance and practice cannibalism. That long-standing story, that for a blackest continent like Africa, with a country like Nigeria with 207 million people, with vast natural resources, sometimes the world wonder why Nigeria is still glowing in the dark. But occasioned by the level of cannibalistic politics that we practice. I can't imagine the political class who, by all the spirit of esprit de corps, that once a political officer is challenged, all of us will rally around. We'll rather sit back and wait and see how the president will fail so that we take political advantage of it. I think as a professor, I've risen beyond party divides. Party is a vehicle towards the attainment of our celestial goal, bringing value to mankind and ultimately to our nation, Nigeria. And that's what I think. There is no personal gain. There is no, the main thrust of my movement is to guarantee that we engage with Mr. President encourage, support him, and stand with the ruling party, gravitate as many political forces as possible to the center, so that ultimately we can be on the same table and agree on how to move Nigeria forward. Okay. And I think you may not understand it until you get into the deeper philosophy and the ecclesiastics of having a righteous, kind mind.
Okay.
What you come out of school with our jobs, thousands of them. As I see our young girls finding themselves in the street occasioned by lack of job, allow give birth to a virtual child. And the generation of young Nigerians getting into different levels of criminality, how long are we going to build more bullets and more bullets? It's time for us to reconstruct. And that's why I want to join Mr. President. 2 years is a whole lot to change the narrative, I insist.
All right, thank you so much. But let's go philosophical. You talked about cannibalism of the nation. A lot of people will tell you that a nation does well when you have viable opposition. And your defecting to the APC has cannibalized the opposition. What is it you will be doing now that you couldn't have done being in the opposition PDP? Because a lot of people ask you that once you cannibalize the opposition, then you don't have good opposition that checkmates what the government is doing, and it's and the society benefits for it. So why can't you do this in the opposition, in the PDP? Why can't you let your verse be heard in opposition, and posterity and history might remember you for good? Why?
There's a difference between a third world and a first world. In a first world economy, where hunger, pain, and infrastructure has been taken care of, you need a viable opposition to create a further value to the society. But in an atavistic, primitivistic, primordial third world, where hunger is still a key issue, a very extreme opposition can become very cataclysmic. And so moderation is the rule. Every performance is always detrimental to the performer. Unfortunately, we have mistaken opposition to be at the other side of the war. No, we're all politicians with intent value to share. And I think we must not, in philosophy, we must not extract what applies in the third world into the reverse. I think the opposition as practiced in Nigeria today is a bit too extreme. And I don't think that's the intent. But you can contribute and you can add value. If I decide to stay in PDP and think I can add value, my voice will not be heard as long and as strong. Even my opinion may be taken with suspect. But as I get into the mainstream of the party, with the amount of intellect and value that I have brought into Cross River State within 6 years, I think it's important for me to bring all of that densification and full force to the benefit of Mr. President. I don't have monopoly of knowledge, but I think I have some little value to add. And I think that value will be best appreciated when I'm in the center.
Well, Professor Ayade, we need to take a short commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still Professor Ben Ayade, Governor of Cross River State, who just defected from the People's Democratic Party to the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress. Well, Professor Ayade, I get all that point about the philosophy and the principles behind your defection. But, you know, out there, the average Nigerian has been saying, some of the people reacting to your defection, they're saying simply that you chose to move from the PDP to the APC because at the state level, you had lost control of the party. And that, you know, having lost control of the party, the logical thing for you will be to find a safe landing in another political party. That's one. And if that is true, then of course I find it surprising that you were quoted as saying that once the governor moves, everybody else will move. And that, look, you are not just going to the APC alone, everybody will follow you. Would that include the National Assembly members? Would that include key stakeholders like former governors Daniel Duke and Liyeli Moke and Senator Gershom Bassi, who used to be members of the same political family with you?
Well, in the first instance, it is very clear and certain that I, as governor of Cross River State, have not lost the political structures in Cross River State. I want to make it very clear that I'm the first and only governor who had won almost all the polling units, almost 85% of the polling units in Cross River State. Take note also, having won 18 local governments out of 18 local government areas. Take note that I have over 38,000 political appointees across the political structure of the state. Take note that the difference or the issues arising from our World Congress and chapter congresses have almost been resolved by the party. The David Mack committee resolved the cancellation of all that and handing over structures to the governor. The national chairman have also said so, and I know the pressure have been intense pressure to do so. The Court of Appeal in Calabar have set aside the other illegal list. And so I have no reason whatsoever. On the basis of that, the committee, the current committee, which is the caretaker committee of the party, is absolutely under my control. I set the committee, and the committee is still in place as of today. I will not expect a journalist to take street talks and social media talk. When I was defecting yesterday, there were people who spoke on behalf of the National Assembly. There were senators there. There were National Assembly members there. All the 18 local government chairmen were there. All the 196 councillors were there. All the commissioners, the entire political structure was on ground. As to whether the former governors, I had an extensive discussion with the former governors and what have you. It is clear and obvious that it takes time for us to build the understanding. But we're totally together as a team. Cross River runs like a political family, and it is so. Don't forget that the defection I made obviously has the buy-in of everybody. You saw Senator Itagiwa speaking strongly, and that is where the system will go. We have who spoke on the floor. It was just not me speaking. The chairman of all the 18 local government areas spoke, and all the chairmen were there. The entire political structure will move when Ayade moves. That is true. Please check my political results. Every single person who parades as a National Assembly today was delivered by me, including those who couldn't have made it if I decided to do otherwise. In politics, talk is cheap, but come to the ground. I have history, I have character, I have shown clearly that I have put every single local government, I have put an industry. I've built over 100-kilometer dual carriage road. I'm doing the superhighway silently. We've gone far with the deep sea port. We've built factories across every single local government area. We're reconstructing Cross River and decoupling it from its dependence on federal allocation. The people know it and they see it. I know clearly that poverty is extreme, and I decided to bring 38,000 young people onto the dining table to allow me the emotional and social temperature, to allow me take advantage of my business connections to bring value to Cross River State. I will wonder if somebody will want to stay. Besides, Cross River State is challenged. We've lost oil wells. We've lost our territory. We seem to come from a minority section. We can also afford extreme opposition. And I've always believed that moderation is the rule. And so, as we go into 2023, I foresee the challenges that will befall this nation. And I'm happy that some of my colleagues in my former party are seeing reasons with me. And in no distant time, you'll see the avalanche of harvest that will come to APC. And this is true.
All right.
And this is done with all sincerity and good intent. If I wanted to stay in PDP, there was no offer, nobody that is called PDP that matters, that has not called and pleaded and pleaded and pleaded. And this has been going on for 4 or 5 months. You know it, the pressure has been too much. And that's why I laugh when people say what they're saying, because if you know the pressure I've come into, just to plead with me not to go, including those who thought they were actually fighting, because they realized that in the absence of the governor aligning with the national, then there's no elections, because as it were, the governor is always the person who gives direction. I am the one who does all the appointments. All the political structures in the state are always in the hands of the governor. It has always been right.
Okay.
Not tradition.
Okay, Professor Ben Ayade, a lot has been said, but I'll still quiz you further on the initial point you made that an opposition is not good for a third world country? Because that's what you just said invariably. You said extreme opposition. I wonder if the opposition that brought the APC to power, it was heightened opposition too. So I wonder, when you say the opposition is not good, and you keep saying that they wouldn't hear your voice until you become part of them. And furthermore, I want you to explain 38,000 aides in a country where states are not viable. They can't pay salaries. You've had your own fair share of salary issue, and you have 38,000 political aides. How do you pay for them? How do you manage them? How about creating jobs so that 38,000 people can be mopped into, working sectors in the economy, rather than putting that on government bill? 38,000. You just said it now, Governor.
Yes, because these 38,000 people are bringing value. I can give you an example. I have a garment factory. The garment factory alone has 3,000 workers on one shift. I have the pharmaceutical factory. I have the Eastern Noodle factory. I have the Kalachika factory for frozen chicken. The feed mill factory. I have the rice seedling factory. I have the 23 megawatts power plant. I have the cocoa processing factory in Ogoja, in Ikom. I have the rice mill. I have the vegetable oil factory. The list is endless. I have roads and networks of roads under construction. I have the rural transformation agenda. All of these needs people to manage. Besides, let us deal with it. If you look at the principles, Section 14 of our Constitution, the primary purpose of government is the welfare and security of the people. Of what use will I have to build a superhighway or the deep sea port when 4.5 million people are prostrate and dying out of hunger? The true essence of leadership is to ensure that you bring value to mankind. And so, even if it's the principle of Keynesian theory, it is better to put food on a table than to put food on concrete. Above all, every single investment I've done is intended to drive income to the state. I've taken from using direct funds into investing like this. So I put the money in core investment options to be able to regenerate and create profit, and then the profit applied on services. So in my summary and submission, it is clear to me that these 38,000 people have not only brought value, they have actually reduced poverty. And if you take our statistics, the voluntary payment of salaries and voluntary payment of bills, school, and cross river, I have never owed salary. No owing pension. I am not. Check my records. Always the first to pay in this country. That's called intellectual money.
Well, Professor Ayade, with your defection to the APC, you've redrawn the political map of the South-South. Now the APC has a governor in the South-South. And you were quoted as saying that more governors would defect to the PDP. And some of the papers are reporting this morning that after David Umahi, the governor in Ebonyi State, and your good self, that more governors will also defect from the PDP to the APC. Are you concerned about the possibility of Nigeria becoming one day a one-party state? Is that a possibility? And as somebody who just left the PDP, what do you think is wrong within the PDP that its members will be moving what is beginning to look like a mass defection? Because you were in that party for a long time. You won elections on the platform of that party.
First, PDP gave me opportunity to be a Nigerian senator. PDP gave me opportunity to be a governor. I will never denigrate that party. There is no human system that is idiot-proof. And so whatever are the challenges, PDP has done so well so far. PDP has historically put some imprints on ground that you cannot just wipe away. The reality is that governors defect for so many considerations. But I think one key consideration is the fact that the level of opposition, and I never said this, it's wrong to have opposition. I say moderate opposition, extreme cannibalism in the name of opposition, distorting of facts, taking war-torn pictures from Afghanistan and presenting like Nigerian situation, creating impression as if Nigeria is at war with itself, presenting us to the international community like a very, very atavistic, blind, primitive society. The amount and professors that we have in this country. I think that that is the message that most people are struggling to change. Look, even if we're all to converge into the same table and agree on how the leadership should go, we would have shown more education, we would have shown more finance. Who says democracy as structured today remains the best way? We adopt devise a policy and program without customizing it to reflect our own ethnic affinities. And that's the problem. I am from Obudu in Cross River State. I have no way to determine my fate to rise to the highest position in this country on the basis of population. But on the basis of personal critical values, I think I can parade myself with all the relevant credentials. But because of the kind of democracy we practice, it is very, very difficult to come from a man. God really, really, really have decided that He was blessed with that opportunity. And I think those are all the things that we need to discuss. And I believe that if I join, as I've joined, it is easier for my voice to be heard and even louder. It is completely different when you speak from opposition. And that's true. The world, human beings are human beings. We're the same, very suspicious of each other.
Okay. Okay, is this a case of if you can't beat them, join them? And does this have anything to do about your own future political ambitions? What are your plans for 2023? Are you positioning yourself so that you can be in a pole position for some strategic position in 2023? And what do you think about the presidency coming back to the South, either the South or Southeast or the Southwest?
I am happy that they discussed today among young Nigerians is that they want a credible and quality candidate. I am not the best material on planet Earth. I therefore don't intend to discuss that. But I know critically that the essence of my movement to APC is occasioned by the deliberate effort to reduce the tension in this nation. Knowing also that having had a discussion with some of my colleagues, I'm only moving, you see others who follow indeed. And the intention is that we want to reduce tension in this nation. As to zoning coming to the south of Nigeria, it's with great pleasure that I see this kind of proper balancing. And I think if APC goes ahead to honor her words, I know that that commitment will actually help stabilize this nation. And I have no objection whatsoever. And I do not intend to join a political family with intent to push my personal agenda, but to push the agenda of the new family and myself.
Right.
Ultimately, whatever is the beneficial process that will bring value to Nigeria, not a personal interest.
All right. Thank you so much, Governor. Real quickly, you didn't attend the Southern Governors meeting on open grazing. Was it because your defection conversation was in the works then, or you were probably busy? What is the reason? I'd like to know. And secondly, what's your reaction to the statement of the Attorney General, of the Federation, supporting open grazing and going one step ahead to say that the open grazing too is just like those that sell, spare parts and things like that. A lot of reactions have come out. I'd like to know your reaction. I'd love to know your position on open grazing. Do you support a complete ban on open grazing in the southern part of the country and other parts of the country?
You know I'm a lawyer. When you shift me from the topic for which you have invited me for, I will be careful. I want to give you a direct answer. The subject matter for my discussion today is defecting to APC. And let's leave it at that. Please, I'm very well informed and I can take my time and give you my own analysis. But for today, let's keep on the subject matter, my defection to APC.
Okay, that's Professor Ayade saying no comment. I mean, you've been in the Senate, you've been a governor, Anyway.
Don't forget, I'm a professor, I'm a lawyer, so you can't.
Okay, Prof.
Let's keep on the subject matter.
Okay, Prof. If you're defecting from that, I'd also like to ask you, with all of the...
I'm not defecting.
No.
You are defecting away from the subject matter.
Okay, so if you don't want to answer that question, I'd like to ask you, what are the chances of this new party you have joined amidst all of this wranglings going on in the country? A lot of people argue that Nigeria has never been this worse. 33% unemployment rate. I can go on and on. insecurity at an all-time high, INEC offices burnt all over the country. A lot of people are even saying, are we even going to reach 2023? You think this party who have come to the APC will stand a chance?
It is for the same reasons that you have just elucidated that inform my movement. It is that is why, in the first instance, 2 years away, I've got no elections, even if I had an ambition. Besides, I've been a senator, I've been a governor. I really don't have any ambition. I am carrying just too much for me for now. But seeing this burning, seeing this conflagration, see the level of arson, the level of challenge, Jesus Christ, I can't sit back and do nothing and just raise my small cross in the state. That's why I am calling every Nigerian, let's get to the discussion table. If APC provides that platform that we can discuss and bring peace to this nation, let's do so. Party is just a vehicle. That's all I have said. I don't know how else can I put it in simple terms so that you take away, purge yourself of all the emotions and sentiments you have and listen to me with a celestial clarity of mind to appreciate and the.
Well, Prof, two questions.
Yeah?
Well, the first...
You're laughing, I know you.
You know, the Governors Forum, the National Governors Forum, they took a decision recently on petroleum subsidy. And they said, look, it's not sustainable, and they agree with the view that petrol should be about 380 naira per litre. Do you agree with that view? And secondly, 2023 is almost here. If it happens that in 2023, the PDP wins the presidency, and also probably also wins in Cross River State, your state, are you likely to defect back to the PDP?
Well, I have always wanted to add value to society. And I believe that if PDP wins the national and wins the state, I will continue to do that. I think is fair. But if in the process, PDP thinks they need my services, I can support. You must understand me that APC today, as I see, and with my personal interaction with the president, I see a sincere person who is committed to this country. And that drives my decision-making process. I was with Mr. President 3 weeks ago, and in the course of our meeting, an emergency news came in while we were seated together that there was an attack somewhere. I know he cut short the meeting, called for security chiefs, and this was around 11 o'clock. And the president was awake all through and then taken up another meeting almost immediately. So it's clear to me that this is somebody who is committed. But because of this fire here, this attack here, which to me, they are man-made, they are politically motivated in some instances, and thoroughly sociologically motivated as well because of poverty and hunger. But sincerely, I don't see it like something we should use to judge APC. It's something we should come together. You ask yourself, if I look into your office, almost everything there is foreign. Nigerians would rather go and buy clothes to Kalachika from Cross River. You dress on foreign clothes. You shop in foreign shops. You travel abroad to go for vacation. You can't destroy the way you do not patronize Nigerian-made goods and expect the president to do magic. It is time for us to close Nigerian borders and ask ourselves to depend on ourselves. The over-dependence on foreign-mediated goods is too much. Our appetite for a sophisticated consumption without a corresponding production capacity has been the banality of this state and this country. We are too world-oriented in consumption with a third-world production attitude. This conflict results to the inequalities and the poverty that we see. So it is an anthropological issue. It is not a failure of Mr. President. Even if Mr. President rice, basmati rice. What has Nigeria got to do with basmati rice?
Okay, Governor.
They go on
he hasn't answered the question about petrol subsidy.
So it's real. What's the question? I've just addressed it in a larger perspective.
No, petroleum subsidy and the position of the governors, 380 naira per litre.
I cannot take a position against my colleagues. The position of the governors, I stand with my colleagues. Of course.
Okay, Governor, thank you so much for your insights. But you know, I was really impressed when you talked about the factories and a lot of jobs you have created in the state. But I don't see the knock-on effect in your IGR numbers in the state. Is that anything, or probably there's something you want to tell us why your IGR is still low, you know? Because with all those factories you've talked about, your IGR numbers should be up there. And furthermore, correct me if I'm wrong, you did say, responding to Dr. Bati's question, that if the PDP wins 2023, it's a hypothetical, and they need you, you'll still come to give them your advice and consult for them. Would I take it to be that you could probably cross back, you know, to help the nation at that point in time? It's hypothetical, Professor. I know I'm dealing with a professor here.
As to our IGR, the question is a little too early. Please just watch. Our IGR has gone up. That is obvious. The leakages have been on the increase, exacerbated by the social pressure on society. But check each of these factories, like chicken processing factory, the instant noodle. We're at the point where we're just waiting for NAFDAC certification. If you take the cocoa processing plant, we're waiting for the international certification. If you take the rice mill, because it's the first vitaminized rice mill in Nigeria, we're waiting for final installations and the system integration, for which COVID-19 has been a big problem for me to get these experts to come in. The vegetable oil processing factory, we need international certification for export, because the Bekwara community, which is the largest producer of groundnut in the south of Nigeria, incidentally is waiting, and everybody has gone into groundnut farming to be able to create opportunity for them to export groundnut to get money in dollars. Unfortunately, all of these things will only start crystallizing if the economic atmosphere becomes better. The purchasing rights of people have dropped occasioned by this COVID-19. So it is difficult for you to have these results so empirical and so quick. It is also, if you read the newspapers, just yesterday's paper, I think the day before, you see the advert of Cross River State government on the various projects that it intends to seek for PPP. So I'm bringing in a lot of difference into the whole advertising government and running it like a business. It takes time to mature. At least I'm not running at a loss. Please don't trust me. Just do your research. Cross River, it's outstanding for the commitment to salaries and pension. Indeed, when I first expanded the government, I was told people, because bringing almost 30,000 young people will be impossible, completely impossible for you to pay. Unfortunately, for 6 years now, I have paid without fail. I'm building, are you aware of Cali Air? Are you aware that Cross River State have just floated Cali Air, 2 aircrafts, world-class aircraft, without borrowing a kobo? The same Cross River that you say the IGR is low. We are concluding the phase for the Cross River shipping line. Just give me some time. You take 2 years for granted. For the last 2 years, 2019, election year, 2020, COVID year, I lost 2 years to all the great. Cross River State is the least, is number 35 out of 26 states in revenue allocation, but the most expanded. And only yesterday, when I was meeting with the old APC, I gave them 500 slots for immediate recruitment of young people. Because these young people, for no fault of theirs, they come out of school, they have no jobs. They didn't ask to be born into this world.
Prof.
So we, the elders and leaders, must assist them.
Okay, Prof, real quickly, 2 things. You've not answered my part of, if PDP hypothetically wins, would you defect back? And speaking of your Cali Air, a lot of people are taking you up on that. Why will you buy 737s for the Cali Air? That it doesn't make economic sense. 737s are more expensive to maintain. Nobody buys 737s any longer.
No.
But in 1 minute, as we wrap up.
Wrong. You get it all wrong. The 737 is the appropriate aircraft for us at this point in time. The purchase value is completely different. If you go for a CRJ 900, for example, you'll be looking for 3 times the amount of money to buy one. Number 2, it has a higher capacity for luggage. It has a higher capacity for passengers. 148 passengers for one single trip. I can cover the 3 trips of a CRJ. Besides, the spare parts are abundant and totally available. A lot of people are shifting out. We know that 737-300 has more stability in the air, very, very stable, and above all, has the best history in terms of aviation safety. And so safety is first. Safety is first, second, and third, because life is first. So I have assigned a consultant, one of the best consultants in the aviation industry, and therefore the fact that we have an MRO in Nigeria that can service 737 approved by Boeing, which is aero contractor, the best aircraft for you to have a low maintenance and operation cost is the Boeing 737. Every other aircraft, there is no MRO here in Nigeria. And that's why we gave it out to aero contractor to be the operator and the maintenance team in charge of Cali Air. In addition to that, we've set up an airport in Obudu. Are you aware that Cross River State is building an international airport?
Governor, you made your point.
Are you aware?
737s. We are waiting to hear. Would you defect back to the PDP if hypothetically the PDP wins the 2023 elections? Would you defect back to the PDP? Because I will owe you based on that. The future is just years away. Would you defect back to the PDP?
I am sure the use of defection seems to excite you. But I think if you understand where I'm coming from, is that I intend to add value to this nation. If I find PDP's philosophy and trust inconsistent with my principle, I will not. I will not. But the way PDP is going, I do not see how that can happen in the first instance anyway. I don't see how that can happen.
Well, but,
and in 2023, I have looked at the amalgam of people who will be parading themselves. I have not seen a paradigm shift. I have not seen a classical departure from tradition. I have not seen something that the young people of Nigeria are yearning to see. So how would you? I would not be part of a system that I see a cumulative failure downstream. But if I see a change that is orgasmic and seems to have a consistency of purpose that fits into my philosophy, and then for the interest of the nation, and I'm not going to offer myself cheaply,
well,
I'm
Prof.
not. As you know, I have a history before becoming a politician,
Prof.
a very successful oil consultant.
Professor
So I'm not in a position, and I didn't come here for money because I run the poorest state in this country, yet with the biggest and most ambitious projects.
Well, Professor Ayade, I'm sure you understand why we kept harping on that question of whether you would defect back to the PDP or not. Because you yourself, you said, the party is just a vehicle. So the question is a vehicle to what? To what convenience? But in any case, I think you've been able to deal with that question. We want to thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show.